Hey guys, today I'll be walking you through how to install a 6-element short ram intake, a 6-element resonator pipe delete, and a 6-element lower engine mount on a 2016 Veloster. Step one for all of these parts is to remove the negative battery terminal, so I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So you don't have to loosen this nut all the way, just most of the way, and it should just slide right up and over. Okay, so first up we're going to install the short ram intake. So the first step of that is to remove the engine cover. In my case I leave it off all the time, but if you don't, it's just 3 posts, you basically just pull right up and it'll pop right off. Next up there's 2 clips around the box and a clamp here. Twisting motion always helps when trying to get these off. Just kind of go back and forth. Eventually it gives up, like it just did. There's these little washers on the hose. I don't know if you want to keep them or not. If you don't plan on putting your old intake on, they probably don't matter. Now in my case, this back hose is ridiculously tight, so this might take some finagling to get it off. I'm trying. There we go. Twisting is always your friend. There we have it. Alright guys, next up we have 3 screws here and a third one down there that we have to take out in order to pop the top of this airbox out. Gone ahead and got a nice long extension bar to make this easier. And they're all 10 mils. Next up we've got 4 10 mils across the front. Basically we have to take the bumper off next. So there's 4 across here and then there's 1 10 mil in each wheel well. Go ahead and pop those off and then the bumper should slide right off. There's also a little pop piece here on each side that you can just use a screwdriver. In my case I have a tool for it, but it just comes right out. There's no use in me showing it because it's too dark, but there's a crease right here and then there's a screw right there. So just pop those out. We're into the car here. We've got screw, 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 and then it looks like this has to come out and then screw, screw. I ended up with a grand total of 6 screws and 5 of these, but I had 1 missing, so you should have 6 and 6 if your car is fully intact. Next up, if you have fog lights, go ahead and unplug them. Should be a plug right back here. Once you have these pops out, it should be easy to get to. It's a bit of a weird feeling clip, but basically just give it a squeeze and pull down. It should come right off. And then there's 4 bolts on the driver's side splash shield here. There's 2 more up in there that have to come off. It kind of just pops right out. Seems to be stuck over here. There's a little pop that sits in. Just pop that out. And that should be it. We should now be able to just pull the bumper off. Next up, there's this little wire for the fog light that we have to unclip. There we go. It's just a little one of these push clips, so that pops out. And then this is the actual box that we're removing. 2 screws back in here, and there's a 3rd one somewhere that the book says that I still have to find. So we'll get on that in a minute. Alright guys, 3rd and final screw in the airbox is just looking straight up right here. So the other 2 were over here. Alright guys, next up there's 2 little pop pins on here. Push pins. You just push them down. Just take it. Just take a screw and use that. Pops right out. we're gonna go ahead and put this reducer coupler on. I'm gonna try to line it up where I can easily tighten this bolt down. And you can tighten this one fully down. You're supposed to wait on the other one though until you've got the intake fully in place. Much like everything else on this job, it's just a 10 mil to tighten this down. So this may take a little bit of finagling depending on what other hardware you have installed on your car. I've got this in the way, so I managed to get around it, but it took a little back and forth. So this post will actually come attached to your intake, but you actually have to take it off to screw it into the battery hole here. So there's a hole down here. You take this, put it down into the hole, and then just go ahead and tighten it down. So that's tight. You can then go ahead and put this back on top, and then the fastener came with it. So go ahead and put that nut on top. So SXTH doesn't actually make the intakes with the BPV anymore. I managed to get actually the last one they made. So in order to install that, I guess it doesn't really matter for you guys, but for me, just pop it right on. So for the last step here, we're gonna go ahead and install the actual filter. Luckily that part's pretty easy. Alright guys, and with regards to the BPV, I went ahead and cut some length out of it because it was just way too long. It's still kind of kinked. I'm hoping that's alright. I wish it wasn't kinked, but I think I'd have to go buy a different hose to achieve that. And the last step is replacing this hose with the hose that they provide with the set. And so this line just slides right on, and just go ahead and tighten that down. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and remove this bar, and it's going to make it where it's just a little bit easier to get up in here to take out the resonator pipe, since I'm replacing the motor mount and the resonator pipe. With that bar out of the way, I can go ahead and take the covers off of these two and go ahead and swap this pipe out. I unfortunately got the bad luck of the draw on this one. It's all the way on the back. This one's nice and easy to access. Once these two are loose, you should just be able to slide this right out. There we go. Here's the replacement pipe. And so you'll be able to feel the little ridge on the resonator pipe. So make sure that that's behind this clamp. We're on to the last part for the day before reassembly. The rest of the car, which is this engine mount. So it's 217s in my case. I'm gonna go ahead and pop those on and loosen it up. The guide calls for torquing these to 30 to 45 pounds, which seems like a massive range to me, but whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and torque them to 40 foot-pounds and leave it at that. It's a pretty tight fit when you try to do this, but it is possible to get this bolt to slide past the transmission if you have a manual. You kind of have to tilt this, tilt it up as much as you can. And that'll make it a lot easier to tighten down in a minute with the bolt facing this way. In my case, it very much is ready to just slide right in. It says you might need a mallet to do that. Mine seems fine, so I'm just gonna slide this in. Then we're gonna torque these down to 70 to 85 pound-feet. And in my case, one's a 17 and one's a 19, so it means I'm gonna need 2 wrenches. All right guys, and that's pretty much a wrap. We've got just to put the bumper back on and to put this one splash shield back on. And then we can take it around for a spin. So as you can see down here, here's the resonator pipe that we've replaced. Here's the new SXTH Element body mount. We'll see if that stays on the car, depending on how rough it is. Got the bar back on, and then up top we've got the intake installed. All right, next up we're gonna go ahead and pop the bumper back on. All right, now we've just got a couple bolts to put back on the bottom here. No, actually, a couple screws to put back on. Also, make sure before you do anything, you go ahead and plug your fog lights back in if that's applicable to your car. And once that's done, go ahead and just start putting screws back in. Make sure you've got the splash guard on the right side of the bumper. In my case, I actually didn't, so I had to pop that right back out. Luckily, the first snap is very easy to get out if you do mess it up. Once you got all the snaps and the screws back in, that's pretty much it. Just don't forget there's one bolt on each side that you got to put in for the bumper. All right, once you put the negative terminal back on, you should be all set to take it for a spin. So next up, I'm going to take it around and film some before comparison of how it sounded, and I'll give some feedback on how it feels with the different motor mount on and how it sounds with the new intake on. Let's go. So the motor mount, I'd suggest avoiding. I don't even think they sell that one anymore, but it's pretty much unbearable to ride in the car with the motor mount on. Everything just vibrates. I'll take it from a stop in a second to show you what I'm talking about. So here's just a normal rolling start. So yeah, it makes it rather unbearable. I can't really suggest this mount. I'm probably gonna, when I get home, swap the other one back on, to be honest. Alright guys, so first off, I went ahead and swapped the 6-element motor mount off about the instant I got it on. It just made it way too harsh in here. This car's pretty smooth without it, and it was just a bit too much. Now on the other hand, let's talk about the intake. So the intake is very loud, and I don't mind at all. I actually really like how loud it is. The only thing it could have possibly done that would have made me really not like it is if it would have caused a drone when you're driving. It doesn't do that at all. Whenever you're at speed, it doesn't make any noise. It's just whenever you touch the accelerator a little bit harder, it kind of livens up a little bit. Yeah, once you're at a speed, it's silent. So overall, big fan of that. Mount, on the other hand, absolutely avoid the engine mount. They do have a new model that's apparently better. I'm not going to spend $250 to find out, at least until the motor mounts that are on the car wear out. So guys, that's pretty much a wrap. So the gist of it is, short ram intake from 6-element, yes. Motor mount from 6-element, absolutely not. So with that, we'll see you in the next one.